So, growing up, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know what job I wanted to have or what I wanted to study. And I remember when I was in high school and I was a senior, towards the end, right a couple weeks before we were going to graduate, one of my teachers had the whole class sit in this big circle and then go around the circle, and everyone was going to share what their plans were after they graduated high school. And I was feeling a little nervous because I didn't know what I was going to do after high school. I had gotten into a couple colleges, I had some ideas, but I wasn't sure. And as it got closer and closer and closer to me, I got more and more nervous because I didn't know what to do. I couldn't find a college that seemed like it was going to be a good fit or a career path that would make me feel fulfilled and happy and satisfied. And I was struggling with that decision. And they were going around the circle, and everyone was doing such impressive things after high school. Going to UAlbany, going to Boston College, working in their dad's business, or joining the military. And finally, when it got to me, the teacher was like, "Hey, Will, what are you doing after we graduate in a few weeks?" And I totally fumbled. I was like, I don't know. And she was like, "Really? Well, you're running out of time. You only got a couple weeks before you make that decision." I felt so scared and so embarrassed. And even after I graduated high school, I started going to Hudson Valley, I started working, I still didn't know what I wanted to do. Because I looked around and it kind of seemed like everybody's job kind of wasn't that good. And I wanted to do something that was fulfilling to me. That I wanted to make a difference in the world. And not just a little difference, but a big difference. And so I started volunteering at my local fire department because I thought that's the way that I'm going to make a difference and have meaning in this. But I quickly realized that most of our calls were medical calls. And I couldn't help on those calls because I wasn't medically trained. So I went to EMT school, got my EMT certificate, started working on an ambulance because I thought that's the way that I'm going to start to make a difference in this world. But I quickly realized that most of what I did was just transport people to and from the hospital, and I wasn't saving lives and changing the world like I wanted to. So I was like, wait a second. When I get to the hospital, I drop the patients off to the nurses, and the nurses are the ones that actually do the work of saving lives and changing the world. So I went to nursing school, graduated, started working in the hospital. Then I realized that nurses don't actually change the world that much either. Most of my job is handing out meds, and even the ability to help people get better. A lot of the times they're just discharging to come back later with the same condition. And I felt so discouraged. What job, what career could I have that was actually going to make a difference in this world? And not even that, but as I started to work more and more, I started to realize that jobs have a lot of pointless policies and procedures. Stuff that just makes my job harder and makes some other guy richer. Jobs have incompetent bosses, annoying coworkers, drama, politics. It was just kind of miserable. And I discovered the problem that I think we all probably have recognized, and that's that work kind of sucks. It does. It doesn't matter if you're blue collar, white collar, if you're a stay-at-home mom or a nurse, work kind of sucks. That's the one thing that we can all kind of agree on. It doesn't matter what you do. All of our jobs kind of suck. Now, there are some jobs that are worse than others. But all jobs somehow suck. So we can all relate to that feeling. But the problem is we all have to work. We need to work to survive and to provide for ourselves. Work is such a huge part of our life. Many of us spend most of our lives working. But it kind of sucks. So what are we supposed to do? If the grass isn't greener, if changing your job or your career or your industry doesn't help us, how can we find joy in our job? Well, the truth that God wants us to know today is that work is hevel. Work is hevel. We're continuing our studies in the book of Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes is right in the middle of your Bible. It's in the Old Testament. Ecclesiastes is we're reading King Solomon's diary. It's his reflections and his thoughts about his life. Now, King Solomon was one of the greatest kings of all time, one of the greatest kingdoms in the world. If you were alive back when King Solomon was, you would want him to be your king. He's a guy who accomplished great things through his work. We still know his name. He was alive thousands and thousands of years ago, and we still know who he is. He accomplished great things through his work. I don't even know my own relative, my great-great-grandfather's name, but we still know King Solomon's name. So when he tells us, what he tells us about work is very important, and we had better pay close attention to what he has to say. So this is chapter 2 in Ecclesiastes. King Solomon says that I hated all my toil in which I toil, which means work, under the sun, seeing that I must leave it to the man who will come after me. And who knows whether he will be wise or a fool, yet he will be master of all for which I toiled and used my wisdom under the sun. This also is Hevel. Solomon's saying that all the work that he did, all that he accomplished in his life was Hevel. Hevel is a Hebrew word that means temporary and elusive. Your Bibles might say vanity, meaningless, or pointless. That kind of catches it, but we're focusing in on temporary and elusive. The Hebrew word means temporary and elusive. It's like this humidifier vapor. It's temporary. It's not filling up the room. You can't see it. And it's elusive. I can't build anything out of this vapor. I can't put it on my pocket. And Solomon is saying that the result of his life's work, all that he accomplished, is Hevel. Meaningless, pointless, temporary, elusive. Now, what's important for us to realize is that the reason that he says that is because Solomon realized something important, that he was going to die. And that when he died, he doesn't have control anymore over what happens to his life's work. Everything that he worked for, when he dies, it's going to be going to somebody else, whether it's a son or someone else, and he doesn't have control over what happens to his legacy. The person who takes over after him might be a complete goober. Like, he might be a fool. He might completely ruin everything that he poured his life into. So what was the point of it all? Solomon had a very realistic fear, because we kind of see that now, like all the time. How many companies are founded and the founder pours their life and soul into the company, and then as soon as they retire or die, some other person takes charge and completely changes the course of the direction of the company? For example, Apple, maker of the iPhone, iPad, Mac. Steve Jobs, when he founded it, he had a crystal clear vision on what he wanted the company to be. He didn't want it to just be another electronics company. He wanted it to fundamentally change the way that people interact with their electronic devices. So every single update of the iPhone, he said, we're going to focus on not just putting out a small update to make more money. We're going to put out big updates that fundamentally change the way that people interact with their technology. And so he did. The iPhone 1 to the iPhone 2 and 3 and 4 were huge steps and advances in technology. But when Steve Jobs died in 2011, that began to change. Now we know that that's not the case. Every year, iPhone comes out, and it's just a tiny bit different. It's more about making money now than keeping that original vision. In fact, Steve Jobs famously said that he would never make an iPhone that had a screen that was bigger than 3.5 inches, because that was the perfect size to be able to touch all of the apps with one hand. And his advisors said, Steve, people want bigger phones. They want bigger phones. We can make more money if we made phones with bigger screens. And he said they're wrong. He had a crystal clear vision on how he wanted people to interact with technology. Then when he died, bigger and bigger and bigger. And now the latest phone has a screen size of 5.5 inches. It's almost doubled. Steve Jobs and Solomon would both agree that working for a legacy is Hevel. Working to be remembered or to build something that lasts is Hevel. And we can relate to that too, even without being Steve Jobs or King Solomon. I mean, you pour your heart and your soul and your effort and your time into your job, and then they can fire you, they can lay you off, you can get a new job, or you can retire, and you have no control over what happens after that. What was the point of all the effort that you poured into that? And if somehow you're able to be one of the few handful of people that actually impact and change the world, like King Solomon or Steve Jobs, it doesn't matter. All of the effort that we put into our work, it's Hevel. What's it for? Working for a legacy is temporary and elusive. But it's not just that. And if you're feeling a little depressed right now, you're in good company. Because that's also how Solomon felt. He said, "So I turned about and gave my heart up to despair over all the toil of my labors under the sun, because sometimes a person who has toiled with wisdom and knowledge and skill must leave everything to be enjoyed by someone who did not toil for it. This also is hevel and a great evil." Solomon's saying that it's not just working for a legacy that is hevel, it's also working for a time when you're going to be able to enjoy the fruits of all your work. He says if you're working to get through the work, to get to a point that you're going to be able to enjoy it all and put your feet up, that's hevel. Solomon is saying that working for retirement is hevel. Because you probably, maybe, won't be able to be the one who enjoys it. There are so many things that can prevent us from getting to or enjoying retirement. I mean, there's no guarantee that the job you're working at is going to have a pension for you by the time you get there. There's no guarantee that you're going to be able to be financially secure enough to be able to enjoy the fruits of your work in retirement. I mean, my goodness, the last 10 years, the market's done this and inflation has done this. There's no guarantee that even if you are able to be financially secure enough in your retirement to be able to enjoy your work, that you're going to be healthy enough to enjoy it. You may not even get there. In fact, the average age that someone is diagnosed with a medical condition that will ultimately take their life is 65. That's also the same time that most people retire. Happy retirement. And let me tell you, as a nurse, there is a big difference between living long enough to get to retirement and being alive in retirement. So even if you live long enough to get to retirement, you may not be able to enjoy it because of your health. And even if you are able to get there, your loved one might not come with you. You may lose your spouse or a friend or family, and then you're alone. Working to one day be able to put your feet up and enjoy retirement is hevel. But how many people have that as their mentality? How many times have you asked someone how their job is doing or how they're doing in their job and they go, "Well, same stuff, different day, 20 more years ago." It's hevel. They can't count on it. They can't build anything out of it. But it's not just working for future things that are temporary, elusive, and we can't grab onto. It's also working now that is hevel. Look at what he says. "What has a man from all the toil and striving of the heart with which he toils beneath the sun? For all his days are full of sorrow, and his work is vexation. Even in the night his heart does not rest. This also is hevel." Solomon's saying that work kind of sucks now. It's hard. There's drama, there's controversy, there's annoying coworkers and bosses. It's frustrating and hard. It's going to make us sad. It's going to make us frustrated. It's hard to enjoy. In fact, our work is stressful now. We might bring it home with us so that we can't sleep. Work is hard now. So it's not even that we can push off enjoying work to a future time because that's hevel, but even enjoying it right now is hevel because it's hard. So what are we supposed to do? How can we find joy in our work? Well, this is what Solomon says. "There is nothing better for a person." That language is so strong. Listen to what he's saying. This isn't just words. King Solomon says, there is nothing better for a person. There is nothing better on this earth in this lifetime than he should eat and drink and find enjoyment in his toil. This also I saw is from the hand of God. For apart from him, who can eat or who can have enjoyment? There is nothing better than eating and drinking and finding joy in your work. Well, how are we supposed to do that, Solomon? The key is this. We need to know that work is hevel in order to be able to enjoy it. Because work will never be able to satisfy the things that we want it to. What we do is we put all of this baggage and expectation on work, and it's always going to leave us disappointed. Work will never be able to fulfill us or give us hope or security or purpose or meaning. And when we put that onto work, it's going to always leave us disappointed. It can't do it. Work is just work. But what Solomon is saying is that if we look at work the way that God intended, from the hand of God as a gift to us, then we can find joy in it. Work without the weight of expectation and baggage that we put on it can be something that brings us joy. When God created work, it was the first thing that he gave Adam to do after he made them was to go and to work the garden. Work is good. There's a great satisfaction in a hard day's work that we can enjoy. And he compares it to eating and drinking. When you're able to enjoy a meal without the baggage that we put on the food, you can enjoy it. When you're able to eat it without the fear of overeating or negative self-talk about your body image or these cultural things that we put on food, we're able to just enjoy the simple pleasure of a good meal. When you're able to have a drink without the baggage of worrying about getting drunk or losing control, we're able to enjoy it as a gift that God gives us. And when we're able to work without the weight of expectation that it has to give us fulfillment and purpose and security, both now and in the future, you're able to enjoy it as a simple pleasure. We can't put the weight of expectation on those things. And let me ask you this question. What is the difference between a person who works the same job in the same company, but one person is completely miserable and the other person is full of joy? God says the difference is that one person knows that work is ultimately not going to fulfill them and looks at it like a gift from God. Which means we look at our job, at our life, at these simple pleasures that God gives us with thankfulness. Thankfulness is the key. Because hear me very clearly. You will not be able to go home today and just all of a sudden, now I'm happy at my job. Now I'm happy with my life. Now I don't have to worry about eating and drinking. Now I'm free. We can't do that with our own willpower or our own strength. Because this is so important. We do not have the ability to give something more value. We can't do it. But when we look at it as something that comes directly from the hand of God to you, then there is nothing more valuable in the entire universe than the gift that God gives us. Now I'm able to look at my job, and even if it's boring and simple and repetitive and there's drama, if I look at it like a gift that God has given me, I can be thankful for it. And it's the thankfulness that can turn our heart around to be able to enjoy what God has given us. It's so critically important. So how do we respond to this truth? We need to be thankful for simple pleasures. Be thankful for the simple pleasures that God has gifted you in your life. And, I think that probably this has never been harder in all of human history because culture screams at you that if you are not somebody, then you're a nobody. With social media, followers, likes, following, personal branding, if you aren't known, if you're not doing something, then something is wrong with you. It's screaming at us, and it's so hard not to fall into the trap. When I see someone posting about their meal in Italy, I look at my dinner and I'm like, this isn't so good anymore. When I look at someone posting their beautiful artwork, I look at mine and I'm like, I don't even want to try anymore. When I look at someone posting about their beautiful life and their wonderful house, I come home to my screaming kids and my leaking roof and I go, this isn't as good. I'm not thankful for it anymore. We've got to be so careful. Are you okay with living a boring life? What God is saying is that work is hevel and that it's okay to enjoy the simple pleasures of a meal, food, drink, friends, family, and our jobs. We don't have to be somebody. Work is never going to be able to fulfill us in the way that God can. In fact, when you have a relationship with Jesus, you are able to endure so much. Your entire perspective changes about your job. Not only are you thankful, but also if you know that you were fully known and fully loved and your performance is not dependent upon your job performance or how many likes you get or how many followers you have, if you're able to just do your job knowing that you are fully known and fully loved, all of a sudden a huge weight of expectation and pressure is taken off. If you know that you don't have to create a legacy here on earth because God says you're storing up treasure in heaven that can never be taken away and never fades, even if no one knows your name. If you have a relationship with Jesus, then you know that you will be spending eternity in paradise with him face to face, even if you don't make it to retirement. Being thankful for the simple pleasures of grace and mercy that God has given us is the key to enduring this pressure that we have from the world. Let me ask you this. How would your calendar change if you believed this truth? How many fewer overtime shifts would you pick up? How many fewer things would you buy and need to pick up more overtime or change your job or change your career? How would your life change if you really looked at your work as God always intended it to be? It's just work. I wish someone had told me this truth in high school. Then I wouldn't have spent so much time and stress and anxiety trying to find this illusion of this job that is going to satisfy me and give me purpose and meaning and hope in this world. I wish someone had told me that, Will, it cannot do it. You cannot find that in a job. You can only find that in Jesus. God doesn't change the job that we're in. He changes us. And I think we put so much pressure and expectation on young people. Let me ask you this question, parents. Would you be okay if your kid was a nobody? Would you be okay if they didn't get that scholarship, they didn't go to college, they didn't get a fancy job, if they just lived a boring and simple life? More important question, would your kids say that you would love them the same if they didn't accomplish anything? It's okay to live a boring, simple life and to enjoy the simple pleasures that God has given us. Work kind of sucks. But thank God that it does. It doesn't have to be anything else because Jesus is everything. Work is hevel. So let's be thankful for the simple pleasures that God has given us.